This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Welcome in. Another VSiN College Football Betting Podcast alongside Matt Youmans. I am Tim Murray, ready to break down the Week 10 college football card, which of course has already gotten underway thanks to Maction being back. It is good to have a little weekday college football back in our lives, a little weather as well. But Matt, we're not breaking down that. We are breaking down a loaded card this week. Count them up, 5 games between ranked teams. Pretty fired up. It's a good card. Spread out, too.
It's a good card. I mean, I don't necessarily need ranked matchups to get fired up for a college football card because you can – some of the under-the-radar matchups can be just as good to bet.
That is true.
This week, it's always good to have a couple high-profile matchups for people and for us to talk about. And I'm going to actually attend one of those this week, Washington, USC. We'll talk about that game.
By the way, if people are keeping track at home, does Matt Youmans have a play on the final game of the card?
Of course.
You betcha. He does. That would be UCLA at Arizona. I don't have a play on the last play of the card. I have one on the second to last game on the card. I'm going to Fresno. Not personally. I'm going to be betting that game. All right, let's get to it, Matt. The game of the week, at least in my opinion, number 14 LSU at number 8 Alabama. These rankings are the new college football playoff rankings, which we don't need to discuss because it really doesn't have betting ramifications. But this will be a 7:45 start on CBS. Alabama right now a 3-point favorite. Depending on where you look, the juice may vary, but pretty much threes across the board. A total of 61 and a half. And I had mutual friend Jimmy Ott on VSiN Primetime. While he didn't give a strong feel one side or the other for a side, he felt like this game will rival the final score of Washington USC, which actually is 16 points higher in the total. So LSU, by the way, all 8 of their games have gone over the total. So we'll see if that trend continues. But Matt, you have a side play on this one. How are you rolling in Alabama and LSU?
Yeah, I think this has a lot to do with the number. Circus Sports opened LSU as a 6-point dog. Now, I can fully understand why the Sharps are taking 6, 5.5, 5, all the way down to 3.5. But once you get to 3, to me, that's a buy low spot on Bama. And I think that we saw a lot of positive signs from the Tide in the second half against Tennessee on October 21st. 27-0 in the second half. Jalen Milroe, the quarterback, playing with a lot more confidence. In the past 3 games, Milroe has passed for 779 yards. He's really improved offensively, and I do think he's playing with more confidence and cutting down on mistakes. You know, it's always a process in terms of how these teams improve, and you expect Nick Saban teams to be playing at a high level all the time. But, hey, this team came along a little bit more slowly, and I think that a revenge spot also works in Alabama's favor here. This was a classic game a year ago in Baton Rouge. It was an awesome game. Brian Kelly and LSU got the win, and I actually think Alabama's going to turn the tables and get revenge here. This LSU defense cannot be counted on. Yes, is Jalen Daniels going to produce some points? The LSU quarterback, of course he is. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. Wouldn't surprise me if it's something like 51-45. But the bottom line here, I'll say 41-35 too, Tim. Whatever. They get over the total of 61 and a half.
Entertaining regardless.
If you want to bet over the total, I'm not going to argue with that because the LSU defense is bad, to say the least. But in terms of a betting philosophy here, when you get Alabama as a 3-point home favorite, that's a definite buy low spot, and that's what I have to play here.
I did hear our friend Chris Felica mention that this is the lowest Alabama has been as a home favorite since the 2010 game against Auburn. So it has been over a decade since we have seen a point spread this low for Alabama at home. I will say this, and I don't have a bet on this game. I actually lean a little bit towards Matt in this with his mindset. If you do like LSU and you are looking to bet the Bayou Bengals, do yourself a favor. Split your unit, Put it on LSU, and then put some on Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman Trophy, because he's around 4-1 to win the Heisman Trophy, Matt. His numbers, based off all the quarterbacks that are out there, are the best numbers, but he's got 2 losses. That's why he's not the favorite. If he wins this game, if LSU wins this game, he's going to play out because their defense stinks, as you alluded to, and he will become the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. So we're pulling for Matt's bet on this show. I would lean that way. I actually took a little Alabama to win the title a couple weeks ago, so I'm hoping that Alabama wins this game as well. But if you think LSU is live, then I would take some Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman Trophy in this particular spot, because it does feel like it's the flavor of the month. Michael Penix is dropping a little bit. We're going to get to Michael Penix in that game here momentarily. But I want to actually, before we go, thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I hear a lot. I hear way too much Heisman Trophy futures talk on this network.
VSiN Primetime does it too much. I will raise my hand on that one.
I know people who have bets all over the board. Yeah. It's just hard to be a winning player when you're making bets all over the board. Same is true with golf futures. Sometimes you bet too many golf futures. Every week I hear somebody touting a different quarterback to win the Heisman. You can't bet all these guys. You got to try to get a good number early in the market and hope you're ahead of the curve. I wouldn't bet on I personally would not bet on Jaden Daniels to win the Heisman.
Yeah, I think they lose. So if they do lose, I think he's out of sight, out of mind. All right, staying in the SEC, Missouri coming in at number 12 in the college football playoff rankings. They are taking on Georgia in this spot. Georgia impressive last week, Matt, dismantling Florida, much to my chagrin. Didn't really feel great, that bet, and it did not come home. Georgia right now laying 15.5 at some spots, 15 in others against Missouri in this spot. This is a legit offense for Missouri. We know there's no Brock Bowers for Georgia. Carson Beck, though, Matt, starting to play a little bit better. 3:30 CBS. Bulldogs laying 15.5 against Mizzou.
Yeah, I'm taking the points here. I got a friend, Dan, who listens to this podcast every week. Dan's a big fan of you, Tim. And Dan always says, why don't you talk more about Missouri football? Well, I think we probably should be talking more about Missouri this year, but this is one of those prove-it games where Brady Cook's going to have to lead the Tigers between the hedges and pull off a big upset. It was a year ago when Georgia was a big favorite and went to Missouri and was life and death to get out of there alive. And I think right now Missouri is in a pretty good spot. This team has quality road wins. They got a quarterback who can go in there and do it, and it's a well-coached team with a good defense. You got a big-time playmaker, a wide receiver, good running attack. Brady Cook right now, 69.8% completions, 15 TDs to only 3 picks. So you would think he's not going to go in there and turn it over and ruin the day for the Tigers. I still am a little bit skeptical, Tim, of Georgia. Now, I know the Bulldogs took care of Sunbelt Billy and the Florida Gators last week. And I was wrong to take the points with Sunbelt Billy. I never should have done it. I knew I shouldn't have done it. But I didn't think Georgia was going to be that sharp away from home. I think this Missouri team's a level above with a much better quarterback, and I took the 15.5. I'm going to say this, though. Of all the plays I'm putting out on the show today, this is the smallest bet I've got is Missouri plus 15.5.
Well, Dan, we did talk Mizzou when they pulled the upset against Kansas State on the 61-yard field goal. We did talk Mizzou when they covered against Memphis. I had Memphis. So I'm 1-1 betting on or against Missouri. I have no bet here. I would actually lean a little bit towards the Bulldogs. I'm wondering if they're catching their stride, but I don't have a bet on it. I do like this Missouri team. As you mentioned, quarterback's really good, and Brady Cook got a legit running back in Cody Schrader. And then Luther Burden, you could argue he's the best wide receiver in college football.
Hey, some people are betting him to win the Heisman, Tim. Just kidding.
Don't do that. Don't do that. All right, let's get to that game that you mentioned you will be attending, the Coliseum, ABC, 7:30 Eastern, USC. You've been hearing that a lot. Against number 5 Washington. Washington coming off of a really impressive 42-33 win over Stanford, where Stanford dropped a pass on 4th down 35-33. I've been saying it for about a week and a half now. Washington is asking to get beaten, Matt. Does it happen here? USC catching 3, a total of 77.5 at some spots, Matt.
Yeah. Well, you think about what this line was in the preseason. We're reversing. We're flipping the favorite and then moving the line several points based on the fact the USC defense has been really bad and the Trojans lost a couple games. But, hey, USC still got a chance to get to the Pac-12 title game. Mm-hmm. All its goals are not lost. So I don't think this is a definite bet against team yet. And Caleb Williams and the Trojans did show a lot last week, I think, when they were down big to Cal. I had Cal plus 10 last week. Cal's up 41-27. And I think, all right, I got this one. Boom. Before you know it, USC's got the lead, and we got to sweat it out. Well, USC held on to win that game 50-49. But I thought that was a really good win for the Trojans on the road, and it's probably going to be a boost for them going into this game this week because the point you made is the most important point. Washington is a team on wobbly legs right now, barely survived back-to-back weeks as a 28-point favorite.
I do not think USC will run the table from here on out, and I don't think I'm going on a limb saying that. They're going to Oregon next week. They play UCLA. They haven't had a bye in quite some time. To me, Matt, this is the last stand for Caleb. I think this is the last moment you get. He'll raise that sword out there. He'll cheer on the band. And I think USC wins this game. I'm taking the 3. I'm going to take them on the money line as well. And I agree. While you look at that score, USC-Cal, and say, wow, only beat Cal by 1. Fair. They were down by 14 in the fourth quarter and showed resilience. So fight on. You're hearing that. You'll be ready to go. Texas, are they on upset alert at home, taking on Kansas State? A big, big day in the Big 12. We're breaking it down next. Stick around. It's the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Before you make your next bet, be sure to visit VSiN.com to check out the current betting splits data. Want to know where the money and bets are moving every game? The betting splits page is updated with DraftKings odds every 5 minutes, so you can see changes in all the action. Find out where the public's betting based on the number of tickets and where the money doesn't match the public opinion. You can check out not just today's action, but future events as well. Betting splits, another way VSiN is here to make you a smarter, better year-round. Check out today's betting splits for every game at VSiN.com. Alongside Matt Youmans, I am Tim Murray. Matt will be at the Coliseum on Saturday night, taking it in, maybe watching Caleb's final game he'll play the rest of the regular season. But have you heard the betting splits page? Very popular. People like it. VSiN.com. All right, Matt, let's keep it rolling. A team that you witnessed in person last week, the Texas Longhorns, they were able to beat BYU 35-6. They take on Kansas State, which is a horse of a different color than BYU. Purple Cats coming in number 23 in the college football playoff rankings. Texas number 7. This will be big noon on Fox, Matt, and we have the Purple Cats getting money in the market as this has moved down to 4 pretty much across the board. Total of 49.5. You can get a 48.5 out there if you do like the under. And you saw him with your own eyes, Malik Murphy. Is he good enough to hold things down for the Longhorns until Quinn Ewers returns?
I was not impressed by Malik Murphy. I know it was 35-6, and a lot of Texas fans came away from the game thinking that Murphy looked pretty good. And when you win a lopsided game like that, a lot of times the quarterback's going to get rave reviews. What I saw, Tim, was a guy who had sloppy mechanics, poor footwork. He was throwing off his back foot, made a lot of lazy throws, poor decisions. He's got a long way to go. Malik Murphy's a redshirt freshman. Now he's a very talented guy, but as a passer, man, he's got a lot of work to do. And you can get away with that when you're facing a BYU defense that ranks in the 90s in efficiency. You're not going to get away with that against Chris Kleiman and K-State in this game. And K-State comes as a hot team. 41-0 against Houston, 41-3 against TCU the last 2 weeks. And I think, after that bad loss at Oklahoma State on that Friday night in early October, Chris Kleiman's kind of pulled this team back together, and K-State is playing for something. You know what they're playing for, Tim? Big 12 championship. Because K-State's alive to win the conference. And I know a lot of these teams would love nothing better than to win the conference and knock out Texas or Oklahoma in the last year before those teams go to the SEC. That stuff aside, I just got my questions about Malik Murphy at quarterback. I really thought Steve Sarkisian should have played Arch Manning some of the game last week. I didn't see it from Murphy. I think it's a big drop-off from Quinn Ewers, and I think Texas could be in trouble if Kansas State brings its A game, which is brought past a couple weeks. A friend of ours, Paul Stone, handicapper from Texas, he drove over to Louisiana to, pick off a bad number that a DraftKings competitor put up on the opener on this game, and it was 7.
Woo.
Paul Stone got +7 on Sunday morning. I'd like to have some of that. I got 5, and I got +4.5. I think K-State should be live to win the game.
Yeah, I took a little 4.5 as well. Official play for Matt, but I think the Purple Cats, I agree, are live. I have a Texas future from the preseason to win this conference. They are the favorites still to win the conference, Matt, as Oklahoma losing last week to Kansas has dropped at circa down to 2-1 now to win the conference. Very rarely, Matt, do I feel like a two-system quarterback works, but Colin Klein and Chris Kleiman have figured it out because Will Howard and Avery Johnson are working really well together. And Avery Johnson, he's going to have this job full-time next year. Will Howard might hit the portal. Who knows what he'll ultimately do. But Avery Johnson's a really interesting, player and very athletic, uses his legs a lot. So somehow, usually hear the old adage, if you have two, you don't have one. I actually think they've figured it out here. Howard and Johnson are working well together. So I agree. I think Texas absolutely has their hands full on big noon kickoff. Let's go to the other top 25 matchup in the Big 12 with massive Big 12 championship implications. By the way, right now as it sits, 5 teams in the Big 12 are 4-1. 0 teams are undefeated. Oklahoma State play each other. Texas, Kansas State play each other. Bedlam, final time for this rivalry. Matt, Oklahoma leaving to go off to the SEC. So Oklahoma State's going to be fired up for this one. And I thought they were going to be so fired up for this one, Matt, that they would overlook Cincinnati. They did not. They put it to the Bearcats. And Mike Gundy, year after year, even though it looks like he might not have a good team, he figures it out, and this team is far removed from getting wiped off the floor from South Alabama, losing 33-7. Ollie Gordon is arguably the best running back in the country. They have won 4 in a row, including that win that Matt mentioned against Kansas State. So here we go. Oklahoma State pokes catching 6 at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Cowboys here. And I think it's hard not to take the Cowboys in the points. Now, Mike Gundy has had his head caved in by the Sooners over the course of this rivalry. There's no doubt about it. But this being the last one, I think you're going to get Oklahoma State's best shot here. And basically that's what you're getting from Oklahoma State every week since those 2 losses to South Alabama and Iowa State. I bet Oklahoma State under 6.5 season wins. And after that 33-7 home loss to South Alabama, I thought, I'm good. I'm going to win that bet. Well, Mike Gundy, I'm not going to bet against him anymore. The guy, throw his name in the Coach of the Year race because what he's done with this team is remarkable. To have Oklahoma State at 6-2 right now is very impressive. Alan Bowman's done a nice job at quarterback once Gundy settled on a QB. But
stop playing his son.
Ollie Gordon. Whew. During the 4-game win streak for the Cowboys, here are his rushing yards: 271, 282, 168, 136. Tim, I hear some people are betting him to win the Heisman. I like taking the points here with the Cowboys. I think they're going to be fired up at Boone Pickens Stadium to knock off the Sooners in the what could be the final bedlam for a while. Yeah,
sensing some sarcasm in the voice there from Matt Youmans. I got Bo Nix 30-1. Okay, 2 weeks ago.
Bet. I actually like that. I think Bo Nix is actually he's my favorite to win the Heisman right now. So 30-1, nice bet by you.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago. Ollie Gordon, riddle me this, Batman. He had 19 combined carries in the first 3 games of the season. After that, it's 18, 21, 29, 29, 25. It's almost like he probably should have been playing more earlier in the season. He had 3 carries against South Alabama. So I'm hoping for the Pokes here, partially because of my Texas future, because I'd prefer them to play Oklahoma State. If Oklahoma State wins this game, Matt, I just want to point this out. if Oklahoma State wins this game, they are going to the Big 12 championship because their remaining competition is UCF, Houston, BYU. The newbies in the Big 12 are a combined 3-17 in conference play, and BYU actually has a win over Cincinnati. So if Oklahoma State wins on Saturday as a 6-point dog, you better believe they are headed to Dallas for the Big 12 championship. Another Big 12 game with another 4-1 conference team, and that would be the Iowa State Cyclones. And I don't think a lot of people, similar to Oklahoma State, Matt, thought Iowa State would be here after they lost 10-7 in Athens, Ohio, to the Bobcats in September. But here we are. Iowa State is a 2.5-point favorite, and this was quickly bet up from open around 1. Why? Because Kansas is coming off of a win over Oklahoma, Matt. They had lost 18 straight games to the Sooners. Their last win against Boomer Sooner came in 1997. This is the first time that Kansas has been ranked by the College Football Playoff Committee. There are only, I believe, 5 or 6 teams that have never been ranked in Power 5 rankings by that playoff committee. Your colleague on VSiN tonight loves to fade that fresh new ranking smell. And that's what I'm going to do here. I'm on Iowa State. I'm going to take the money line. You can find it as cheap as -140. If you want to lay the 2.5, that's fine. Anything under 3. But, Matt, you and I kind of have a similar philosophy. Let's just not mess around. Let's just take the money line. You got to pay an extra 30 cents. But Iowa State, similar to Oklahoma State, quietly, this team is starting to figure it out a little bit offensively. We know they're good defensively, Matt, but Rocco Becht, Anthony Becht's son, is starting to play better. He's 9 to 3 turnover touchdown to interception ratio in Big 12 play. This team was inept offensively early on in the year. 13 points against Iowa, 7 points against Ohio. But they are starting to figure it out. Yes, they got blown out by Oklahoma, but if you watch that game, a game that I had Iowa State, I think, +20, they were down by 1 and ultimately lost that game 50-20. So give me the Clones money line against the Jayhawks in a letdown spot du jour.
I don't disagree. I was on the Jayhawks last week, catching a big number against
Good
Oklahoma, get the outright win. And I think this is going to be a good spot to fade the Jayhawks on the road. Iowa State's not always pretty. Tim, you're probably going to sweat it. You might get angry at some point during this game. But I think you should get there. It's actually a good spot to bet the Cyclones.
Never get angry, Matt. I never text you in anger on a Saturday evening. How will the Irish do? Speaking of anger, VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
There's no better time to be a sports bettor, and with our new Sports Equinox special, there's no better time to become a VSiN Pro subscriber. You sign up now, you get full access to everything we do through May 1st for only $120. That includes daily best bets, unlimited access to our betting splits, plus our exclusive betting content for college football, the rest of the NFL season, March Madness, NBA, NHL regular seasons, and the NFL draft. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. VSiN.com/subscribe to sign up now. We keep it rolling. It is the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast, Week 10 of the college football season. And Matt, we've mentioned it a handful of times. Those betting splits over at VSiN.com, very popular to look at. And our next game seems to be quite the popular bet because Notre Dame, as of record on this Thursday, is getting 88% of the bets against Clemson. Of course they are. Notre Dame just pummeled Pittsburgh. Prior to that, they beat USC. And Clemson stinks. At least that's the perceived notion of this Clemson team. Losing last week to NC State, they're now 4-4. My question for this game, Matt, is Clemson on quit mode? You know, Tyler from Spartanburg or whoever that caller was, who some people believe was a plant, got old Dabo fired up. Is this a rallying cry for the Tigers on Saturday? Not a primetime game. This will be noon on ABC. Couple injury notes. Will Shipley, the starting running back for Clemson, likely out. He's in concussion protocol, leading in the team in rushing with 515 rushing yards, 20 catches already this year. Notre Dame will be without their leading receiver, Mitchell Evans, tight end, torn ACL, done for the year. He had a big game against Ohio State, big game against Duke. Phil Maffa will step in for Clemson. He's pretty good. By the way, here's the tweet, Matt, as I predicted, that Notre Dame laying a short number at Clemson will be one of, if not the most public side of next weekend. Clemson is allergic to scoring in the red zone, Matt. 66% of their red zone appearances end with points. They've lost 10 fumbles this year. I think this is an under game. I think Clemson's defense is still good. I think Notre Dame's defense is better than Clemson's offense. I think this is an ugly game, 20-17. Hopefully Clemson is on quit watch, and Notre Dame maybe gives them a punch to the nose, and they just say, we want to pack it in. So no play on the side for me, but I do think under 45, which is a key number, is a play. I've seen a little bit of movement towards the under. I knew I was going to play the under as soon as this game came out. Real quickly, Matt, on the last two Notre Dame scoring outputs, 48 against USC, 58 against Pittsburgh. Special teams touchdown in both of those games, defensive touchdown in both of those games. They forced 10 turnovers combined in those two games. I think that regresses a little bit. I don't know if Clemson's going to be as sloppy as they have been the most of the year, but I also don't believe in Cade Klubnik. So under for me, Notre Dame Clemson.
There's a lot to talk about with this game. And, you started with the betting splits. When you've got that lopsided action on a road favorite, first of all, you got to think, okay, let's take a close look at the home dog here. Dabo Swinney is one of the most thin-skinned, high-profile college football coaches I've ever seen. You've got to be able to handle criticism better than this guy handles it. But I also think it's going to be kind of a rallying cry for his team this week. I would put out the home dog as a play. I would bet it, but I'm going to wait to see what happens with Will Shipley. I think he's too important to the offense to just say, well, I'm blindly going to play Clemson here and take the 3, and I don't care if Shipley plays. I do care if he plays. He took a big hit in the NC State game. He's in concussion protocol. I don't know if he's going to be cleared for this game. If Shipley plays, I'm on Clemson. I might end up on Clemson anyway, but Tim, I agree with your take in terms of under the total here, because Notre Dame defense allowing just over 15 points a game, and defense travels. I don't think the Irish are going to look as good offensively as they have the past couple weeks at home and the blowouts against USC and Pitt. I think this is going to be a low-scoring type of struggle that could be decided by a field goal. I like taking the 3 here. I think this is actually a good spot to play Clemson, but I want to make sure that Will Shipley is going to play.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is an incredible buy low spot for Clemson, but you do wonder, has this team quit on the year? When was the last time?
I don't think this team's quit.
I think Clemson, over the years with their culture that they like to beckon on or fall back on, I do think this team will show up. I think it helps Notre Dame. It's a noon game, to be honest. If this was a night game, I would look more towards Clemson.
I'll tell you what, I don't like how so many of the high-profile matchups this week are 9 a.m. kickoffs Pacific time.
Yeah.
Clemson, Notre Dame, that should be a night game. What's Kansas State, Texas doing as a kickoff at 9 a.m. Pacific? I don't like the TV scheduling with the big games this week.
All right. Well, there's a late-night game. There always is. And you know that Matt Youmans is going to bet it. And that would be Arizona, Jed Fish's squad. Boy, good call by Matt last week as they took down Oregon State. Still don't understand why Jonathan Smith decided to fake a field goal, 10-10 at the end of the first half. Okay, sure. They're hosting number 19 UCLA, 10:30 Eastern kickoff, FS1. We've seen market move towards the Cats in this one. What are you doing with Arizona and UCLA, the final game on the Week 10 card?
Yeah, I took 3 with Arizona, and this is not a big bet for me, but I did take it here. UCLA was a 20-point home favorite last year, and Jed Fish and the Cats went in and won that game at the Rose Bowl. UCLA's got the superior defense here. I'm still not crazy about what Chip Kelly's doing with this quarterback rotation, and a little bit of confusion at the quarterback spot for UCLA, but it's hard to deny what Arizona's got going right now. And Jed Fish has got this offense producing at a high level of efficiency. The defense is much improved. I did like Arizona a week ago. I'm just going to stick with the Cats here, Tim. I don't try to play the last game on the card every week, but I bet a lot of Pac-12, Mountain West, and Hawaii football, and those tend to be the last games on the card, and that's the case this week. Arizona 7-1 against the spread this season, so it's kind of hard to argue with that. I think it is a big revenge spot for the Bruins, and they got the better defense. I think you have to go with the Cats. They're hot right now, and hey, I said this last week, one of the most surprising scores of the entire college football season, Arizona 44, Washington State 6.
Yeah.
And at that point, if you didn't believe that Arizona's got something positive going on, then you're blind. You're not paying attention, because this is a team on the rise in the Pac-12. I'm going to go ahead and ride a team that's been good to me here with the Cats.
Yeah, not much pushback from me. I would look towards the dog here, especially north of 3. I know it's dipped down in a lot of spots, under 3. But the Cats, they're live, and they have been a lot of the year. And, late night in Tucson, things get a little weird, like faking a field goal, 10-10 at the end of a first
Jonathan Smith is such a good coach. We've talked about this over and over. I'm getting tired of actually talking up coaches, because then you talk up a guy and he does something incredibly stupid. That is one of the dumbest fakes I've ever seen last week.
It had no chance.
Huh?
It had no chance.
What were they thinking on the Oregon State sideline?
Good Lord, man. I mean, I was pulling for your bet. I had a little Arizona, but, man, I needed Oregon State to figure out a way to win that game for a win total. But, hey, Arizona gets the win. Oregon State 6-2. They get Colorado this week, a game we might be able to touch on at the end. Also in that late night window, 10 o'clock Eastern, we got Boise State headed to Fresno. I'm going to take Boise State here. Yes, something to keep an eye on. Ashton Jeanty, the leading running back for Boise, seems to be trending towards not playing. Got banged up last week against Wyoming. However, George Halani returned, and they have a dynamic duo with Jeanty and Halani. Halani had over 1,100 rushing yards last year. I don't think it's a drop-off whatsoever from Jeanty to Halani. Now, I wish they had both of them, and they may, but I like Boise State in this spot, Matt. Coming off the bye, they lose that heartbreaker to Colorado State. They seem to fix something. Now, Wyoming's pretty anemic offensively, but boy, that was as impressive as a performance I've seen in quite some time. They outgained Wyoming 443 to 112 last week in that spot. Boise dominated the Pokes, and then you flip it over to Fresno State. Now, both you and I are, Tedford fans. I believe in what Fresno State has been building there, but if you watched last week, they were incredibly fortunate to beat UNLV. UNLV is a good team. UNLV drops a touchdown pass in the closing seconds there. They actually outgained Fresno 424 to 312 in this game. I think this is a good spot for Boise State. Look at the records. 4-4 Boise State, only catching 3 at 7-1 Fresno State. I like the Broncos here. Plus the 3. I'll put some on the money line too. I think the Broncos, even with Jeanty maybe out, I don't love the quarterback situation. The two-system quarterback there is a little clunky, but I like Boise State. I think they're kind of building at the right time here.
I agree with that. When you see a 7-1 team at home against a 4-4 team and the line is 3, that's telling you something about you should be looking at the dog in this game. But you're making a good point, too, that Fresno State was actually whipped by UNLV a week ago. Got away with one. Kind of stole one from the Rebels there. And I think this is going to be a good spot for Boise to go into Fresno and probably get the win. So you take the +3 as insurance, but I think Boise State probably wins this game.
And I'm hearing that Madison might be a dark horse Heisman candidate, man.
Some people are betting
Some people are saying that. Some people are saying that. All right, we got some SEC games to hit on, some Big Ten games, our best bet recap, a lot to come in the final segment of the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.
This is VSiN's College Football Betting Podcast.
Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today and get a daily email recapping all the best bets from our show hosts and guests. You'll get unlimited access to our vsin.com/picks page, sort picks by sport, matchup, event date, and more. Check the top VSiN experts leaderboard to view betting records, profit, and ROI. See which VSiN expert has the hot hand for VSiN Pro Picks. Betting splits, very popular on vsin.com. Betting guides, 24/7 video access. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. Sign up and get access to everything we do through May 1st for only $120. VSiN.com/subscribe. Alongside Matt Youmans, I am Tim Murray. It is the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast, Week 10. And if you're wondering, hey, Tim, are you going to bet on a team that scored 3 points in their last game? Yes. And if you're wondering, hey, Matt, are you going to bet on a team that got shut out in their last game? Well, yes. So let's get to those games. I'll go first. Arkansas at Florida, noon kickoff, ESPN2, Matt. After last week's embarrassing performance, or 2 weeks ago, embarrassing performance for Woo Pig Sooie when they lost 7-3 to Mississippi State, they fired offensive coordinator Dan Enos and promoted wide receivers coach Kenny Guyton to take over as the offensive coordinator. KJ Jefferson this week said that everybody is bought in on Kenny Guyton. There's going to be more tempo expected from this Arkansas team. They come in 2-6, Matt, and the last time we saw them, they were horrendous against Mississippi State. But did they run out of gas? Listen to this 4-game stretch they played from September 23rd to October 14th. At LSU, neutral site against Texas A&M, at Ole Miss, at Alabama. How many teams are coming out with victories in that? Not too many. And Arkansas was right there with Alabama, was right there with Ole Miss. They had the 4th most difficult schedule to this point, according to Sagarin. I think this is a buy low opportunity coming off a bye for Woo Pig Sooie. I wish they were at home. Wish we could get calling to the pigs there in Fayetteville, but they're at the Swamp. And what is Florida coming off of, Matt? An ass whooping at the hands of Georgia, their arch rival. I think this is a buy low opportunity for Arkansas, a potential letdown spot for Florida. Rocket Sanders is expected to be back for Arkansas, their best running back, and Florida's leading tackler, Shamar James, dislocated his knee. He's out for the year. So I am taking Woo Pig Sooie in a spot off a bye. Sam Pittman might be coaching his last 4 games as the head coach of Arkansas, but I think they rally together. Kenny Guyton brings some pace, kind of what they had under Bryles last year. Kendall Bryles, who left for TCU. I'm going to take Woo Pig and take the 6 with the Hogs in the Swamp.
That's probably a game I'm going to end up getting on to. I've had Arkansas written down. I've thought about playing it all week. And I don't know if there's still a 6 out there, but I'm going to look for a 6 if I can get it. I'll probably still bet Arkansas. Yeah, Tim, it's a team on a 6-game losing streak, but you got a 3-point loss at Alabama, a 3-point loss at LSU. This team's played some pretty good football during that 6-game losing streak, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit to see Arkansas get the win here. You said the offensive coordinator was fired after the 3-point performance in the 7-3 loss. He immediately became the top candidate for the Iowa offensive coordinator job.
Dude, Iowa going to Wrigley Field. I actually got to do a little homework and find the highest scoring game at Wrigley this year and see if Iowa goes over. I want to see if someone could set a line on Iowa Northwestern versus the highest scoring game at Wrigley this year and see what happens. Well, I mentioned it, Matt. Let's go back to the Mountain West, a game in which you're taking a team in San Diego State who last time we saw the Aztecs got shut out by Nevada 6-0, but they're coming off a bye. And Brady Hoke, I need you. I need you to take care of business here, buddy, because I got under 5.5 wins for Utah State, and they are 3-5. They still have Nevada and New Mexico on the schedule. Need you to step up here, and you believe they will, Matt.
I think so. This is a good scheduling spot for the Aztecs after they got embarrassed at home. That was a Nevada team that had lost 16 consecutive games. Wolfpack went to San Diego and shut out the Aztecs, like you said, 6-0. Brady Hoke is hearing a lot of people calling for his job right now. Believe it or not, he's got a $5 million contract buyout. I don't know why the hell you'd ever give Brady Hoke a contract with a $5 million buyout, but if you think that's bad, did you know Indiana coach Tom Allen has a $20 million buyout?
Did Wes Reynolds let you know about that?
No, we were talking about it. It's inconceivable to me that that's even a possibility. But, you know, Brady Hoke, the deal here is the pressure's on Brady Hoke, and it should be he's let this offense slip to embarrassing levels. And but San Diego State has shown an ability to run the ball, be more physical than opponents, and actually be competent at times on the offensive side of the football this year. I don't think the San Diego State defense, I said this after week 0, Tim, I don't think this Aztecs defense is anywhere near the same level that we're accustomed to seeing from San Diego State over the past 10, 15, 20 years. But this Utah State defense is nothing special either.
Nope.
And I think off the bye, off an embarrassing loss, you're going to get San Diego State's absolute best effort here with the coach under pressure. So I've seen glimpses of it from San Diego State. I expect to see it in this spot. I'm going to take the Aztecs as home dogs.
Who would want to bet San Diego State, you might ask? Well, not many, because according to the betting splits over at VSiN.com, 80% of the bets.
That's even better.
On Utah State. Let's go Aztecs. We need you. We need you for that win total. One more play for you, Matt. You mentioned Indiana, and heck, the last time we saw them, we were thinking they were live. They might win outright against those mighty Nittany Lions at Penn State. They didn't win, but they did cover. On the other hand, Wisconsin, maybe a letdown spot for them after a night game where they were tied with Ohio State, ultimately lost 24-10, but covered. Good call by Matt. Wisconsin laying 9.5 here in Bloomington on Saturday. This will be a noon Eastern kick on Big Ten Network.
Braylon Allen, Wisconsin running back, was banged up in that game against Ohio State. His status up in the air for this game in Bloomington. But, Tim, this is such a flat spot for the Badgers. Off that home game against Ohio State, you're still playing with a backup quarterback. Ches Malusi, your other running backs, out for the year. Where is the offense going to come from here for Wisconsin? And Badgers go on the road to face an Indiana team that actually showed some life on the road a week ago against Penn State. I would think that if Wisconsin wins this game, that it's going to be low-scoring, ugly, and it's going to be a sweat, a life-or-death type of situation. I would not tell you the truth, if you're betting Wisconsin as a road favorite, I would not lay more than 3 here. I'm happy to take 9.5. Hopefully the Hoosiers play like they did a week ago. This is one of those ugly home dogs that I typically like to bet. It's not going to be too popular with the public. My plays this week, Indiana plus 9.5, Kansas State plus 4, USC plus 3, San Diego State plus 2.5. Right there, 3 of my first 4 plays are home dogs. Alabama minus 3, what I consider a buy low spot here for the Tide. Missouri plus 15.5, and 2 more home dogs. Oklahoma State plus 6, Arizona plus 3, and Tim, 7 underdogs this week. And I'd say the one I like the least is Missouri, but I do have bets on all 8 of those games, obviously.
All right, a 7-4 week for Matt last week, carrying our water because it was a disaster for yours truly. 2-5 last week, ended a nice streak of 4 straight winning weeks, but we're back at it this week. 5 plays for me. We will go Arkansas plus the 6. I don't know if that's available anymore. We give these plays late Wednesday night. 6s were still out there, but I think Arkansas is live on the road against Florida. Matt and I in unison here. We're taking the points with Fight On, the Trojans plus the 3. I think they're live there as well. Boise State plus the 3 against Fresno State. Mention those records. A 7-1 Fresno State team only laying 3 against Boise State. I do think, even though I'm not a big Andy Avalos guy, I don't know if he's perfect for that job. I think they've figured some things out, and I think the Boise State Broncos are going to be live. By the way, just a reminder, revenge spot. Boise State hosted Fresno in the Mountain West Championship last year, and my guy Jake Haener took it to him and won that conference championship. Iowa State minus 140 on the money line, Matt, against Kansas. Kansas coming off their first win over Oklahoma since 1997, a string of 18 consecutive losses, and Iowa State quietly playing much better since that 10-7 loss on the road at Ohio. And then under Notre Dame, Clemson, make sure you get that 45. 45 is a key number. 44.5's starting to show up. I think that is not a aesthetically pleasing game. Hopefully the Irish do take care of business, and I think Will Shipley, while not official, I would be pretty surprised if Will Shipley played in that game, Matt.
5 plays for Tim Murray. I'm predicting a winning week.
Come on.
For 10. I like those plays.
Need a bounce back spot. That's Matt Youmans. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Youmans247. I'm at 1 Tim Murray. Please rate, review, and subscribe. Let's keep the good momentum rolling, just like Matt's plays last week. Let's keep that rolling. This has been the VSiN College Football Betting Podcast.